Luke 22, New Living Translation with King James Version alongside. Luke 22. The festival of unleavened bread, which is also called Passover, was approaching. The leading priests and teachers of religious law were plotting how to kill Jesus, but they were afraid of the people's reaction. Then Satan entered into Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12 disciples, and he went to the leading priests and captains of the temple guard to discuss the best way to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted and they promised to give him money, so he agreed and began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus so that they could arrest him when the crowds went around. Now the festival of unleavened bread arrived. When the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus sent Peter and John ahead of and said, "Go and prepare the Passover meal so we can eat it together." "Where do you want us to prepare it?" they asked him. He replied, "As soon as you enter Jerusalem, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He will take you upstairs to a large room that is already set up, and that is where you should prepare our meal." They went off to the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. When the time came, Jesus and his disciples sat down together at the table. Jesus said, "I've been very eager to eat this Passover meal with you before my suffering begins, for I tell you now that I won't eat this meal again until its meaning is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." Then he took the cup of wine, gave thanks to God for it, and he said, "Take this and share it among yourselves, for I will not drink wine again until the kingdom of God has come." He took the bread and gave thanks to God for it. He broke it in pieces and gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." After supper, he took another cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant between God and his people, an agreement confirmed with my blood, which is poured out as a sacrifice for you. But here at this table, sitting among us as a friend, is the man who will betray me. For it has been determined that the Son of Man must die. But what sorrow awaits the one who betrays him?" The disciples began to ask each other which of them would ever do such a thing, and they began to argue among themselves about who would be the greatest among them. And Jesus told them, "In this world the kings and great men lord it over their people, yet they are called friends of the people. But among you it will be different. Those who are greatest among you should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant. Who is more important, the one who sits at the table or the one who serves? The one who sits at the table, of course, but not here, for I am among you as one who serves. You have stayed with me in my time of trial. And just as my Father granted me a kingdom, I now grant you the right to eat and drink at my table in my kingdom. And you will sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers." Peter said, "Lord, I'm ready to go to prison with you or even die with you." But Jesus said, "Peter, let me tell you something. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will have denied me 3 times that you even know me." Then Jesus asked them, "When I sent you out to preach the good news, and you did not have money, a traveler's bag, or an extra pair of sandals, did you need anything?" No, they replied. But now he said, "Take your money and your traveler's bag. If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. For the time has come for this prophecy about me to be fulfilled. He was counted among the rebels. Yes, everything written about me by the prophets will come true." "Look, Lord," they replied, "we have 2 swords among us." "That's enough," he said. Then, accompanied by his disciples, Jesus left the upstairs room and went, as usual, to the Mount of Olives. There he told them, "Pray that you will not give in to temptation." He walked away about a stone's throw, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." Then an angel from heaven appeared and strengthened him. He prayed more fervently, and he was in such agony of spirit that sweat fell to the ground like great drops of blood. At last he stood up again and returned to the disciples, only to find them asleep, exhausted with grief. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked. "Get up and pray, so that you will not give in to temptation." But even as Jesus said this, a crowd approached, led by Judas, one of the 12 disciples. Judas walked over to Jesus to greet him with a kiss. But Jesus said, "Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" When the other disciples saw what was about to happen, they explained, "Lord, should we fight? We brought the swords." And one of them struck the high priest's slave, slashing off his right ear. But Jesus said, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus spoke to the leading priests and captains of the temple guard and the elders who had come for him. "Am I some dangerous revolutionary," he asked, "that you have come with swords and clubs to arrest me? Why didn't you arrest me in the temple? I was there every day. But this is your moment, the time when the power of darkness reigns." So they arrested him and led him to the high priest's home, and Peter followed at a distance. The guard lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, the guards, and Peter joined them there. The servant girl noticed him in the firelight and began staring at him. Finally she said, "This man is one of Jesus' followers." But Peter denied it. "Woman," he said, "I don't even know him." After a while someone else looked at him and said, "You must be one of them." "No, man, I'm not," Peter retorted. About an hour later, someone else insisted, "This must be one of them because he's a Galilean too." But Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." And immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. At that moment the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Suddenly the Lord's words flashed through Peter's mind. "Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you'll have denied me 3 times that you even know me." And Peter left the courtyard weeping bitterly. The guards in charge of Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and said, "Prophesy to us, who hit you this time?" And they hurled all sorts of terrible insults at him. At daybreak, all the elders of the people assembled, including the leading priests and the leaders of religious law, the teachers of religious law. Jesus was led before this high council, and they said, "Tell us, are you the Messiah?" And he replied, "If I tell you, you won't believe me. And if I ask you a question, you won't answer. From now on, the Son of Man will be seated in place of power at God's right hand." And they all shouted, "So you are claiming to be the Son of God?" And he said, "You say that I am." "Why do we need other witnesses?" they said. "We ourselves heard him say it." Luke 22.